Hello and welcome everyone to this webinar. Thank you all of you for joining in today. Thank you so much for taking out your valuable time and welcome all of you. Uh, so I am Vanshika. I'd be your host for this webinar. In case you have any questions, any queries while the session is ongoing, you can use the chat box or you can even ask me directly, and you can even ask the host, the speaker for the session as well. We would also have a Q&A session by the end of the webinar. You can feel free to ask your questions there as well. But in between also, if you have anything, you can ask, okay? So without further ado, let me introduce you all to the speaker of the day. Today we have with us Mr. Chandan Goswami, who is the Chief Product Officer at Goodgist. He had been developing a lot of products, and today he's here to enlighten all of us about how AI can transform the industry of product. Chandan, welcome to the session. You're on mute, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Vanshika, and welcome all of you to this webinar. I hope it will be good use of your time. And if you're a product manager in any industry, I hope the takeaways will be a great benefit for all of you. With that, let me try sharing my screen. Okay. I hope all of you are able to see my screen.
Yes, Chandan, we can.
All right. So today we'll start with an overview or an introduction to the Goodgist platform, why we built the platform, what the platform is capable of doing for different use cases, and what are the core features of this platform. And then we'll go to the specific, for today's webinar, that how we internally use it in our product management team, as well as our customers are using it for their product management workflows or product management tasks to automate. And we'll show you some demo for some of the use cases that our customers have developed or we have been using internally for our uses. All right, so today, as I already said, we'll be discussing what are some of the major challenges for PMs in this AI age. How can AI help product teams to deliver faster, efficiently, accurately? And then some of the examples that we'll be taking are how do you, manage your task in Jira or in some other tools? How do you do training of your product for a specific, role or a specific segment of your user or within your company? So I'll be taking some of those examples and we'll show you a demo. Now, going back to why we started Goodgist, right? So these are some data that we collected from our research that most professionals across service-oriented industries or in any industry in general spend a lot of time, almost 28 hours per week, on repetitive, time-consuming, mundane tasks, right? So our goal is to help our users, our customers, to perform those tasks, or automate those tasks so that those can be performed or can be fulfilled, efficiently, accurately, and in an autonomous fashion. So some of the data points that I want to talk about, like a product manager, this data may be actually even larger for product managers that looking for information, searching information within the enterprise or from the web. Data entry of, say, for example, one demo that I will show you today is about like creating Jira stories, processing comments from those Jira stories and all of those kind of things. We spend a lot of time in reviewing document, customer feedback, all of those tasks that we have to do almost on a daily basis. And then one of the major time-consuming tasks for PMs are basically communication, communicating to all the stakeholders, customers, internal teams, all of those kind of things, right? So, using AI, we can actually automate some of these tasks, in a more efficient way, so that we never fail to communicate, we never fail to, review document, we never fail to, create stories or PRDs or, any of those tasks, within time. So when I talk to customer, the one way to think about our platform is this is an extension to your team. It's basically a assistant that can help you on your day-to-day task. That's our primary goal, is to make the users efficient and focus on the things that matters most, other than instead of spending time or a significant amount of time on this task, like maintaining records in your system, the source of truth or system of truth, and all those kind of things. All right, so what AI agents can do in general, right? The advantage of the agents are the AI agents are that it can retrieve the information that you want. It can retrieve from databases, it can retrieve from web, it can retrieve from the documents, APIs, all of those kind of things, right? It can analyze and interpret the data. It can compute if you have to do some calculations. Say, for example, your data source is an Excel file, and then you have a lot of data there. Instead of creating those macros or those formulas and all of those kind of things, AI can handle that for you. You don't have to kind of keep working on the Excel sheet. You can actually give it to the AI, and AI can interpret it. It can read. It can our platform can compute and all those kind of things. It can explain. It can break down the task. It can break down the points. It can give you more details wherever you need it. Our platform can actually orchestrate your workflows, and that is, you will see it in our demo. It can execute tasks. The most important thing is, whenever you think of a workflow, and workflow is a combination of multiple tasks. But in a traditional workflow engine, if you have to build that workflow, you have to know what are those tasks. But oftentimes, we actually don't know, or we cannot define accurately all those tasks. So what our platform provides is that you don't have to define those tasks. You don't have to define the actions inside those tasks. Our platform can automatically identify that what are the tasks that we need to perform to complete this workflow. It can answer relevant questions based on your query. It can search for information, and the most importantly, as I already kind of explained this, is our platform can think and take decisions. It can reason, it can plan, it can act, it can review, and it can iterate. All right. So what we offer in our platform, we focus on creating the agents or workflows, what we call as the multi-agents, and make it very easy for anybody to create a workflow. Think of creating a workflow is like giving instruction to one of your teammates. Say, for example, you want to read some message from Slack, identify what is the intent of that message, and based on the intent or based on what the message talks about, you want to take some action, right? So if you have to give this task or explain it to one of your teammates, you will probably explain it in plain English, that do this, and then based on that do this, and then after 3-4 tasks, you basically complete your workflow, right? That's exactly what you are going to tell our platform to do in plain English, and we will identify what are the tasks that are involved, what each task need to do, what each task need to connect to, because to perform a task, you need information from different systems. So we can connect to different systems and get this information. So it will automatically identify what it needs to connect to. You can literally build a workflow in just 5 to 10 minutes. You can test it, and then you can move it to production. We intentionally, our goal is to make it a completely no-code platform. We don't support, custom code or, embedding code into our platform. So everything is completely no-code and will be done automatically for you. The other thing that, you have the option of, our customers, they have the option of logging into GoodGist and performing those or executing those workflows or the agents from there, or they can automatically, with the help of an embed code, they can go and embed that into their internal system. Say, for example, if you're doing an automation with Jira, you can actually embed our workflow in Jira itself, in your Jira homepage or whatever page you want to embed our platform to. Whenever we talk about AI, the first question that comes to everybody's mind is, what about inaccuracies and hallucinations? Yes, it is a fact that AI hallucinates sometime. I mean, maybe 10%, 15% of the time. And what we have figured out that, the way to minimize to the, optimum level of hallucination is that you define the tasks as granular as possible. If you kind of give a lot of information or a lot of instructions to an agent, or a lot of sources and all those kind of things, then there is a chance of hallucination. What we do, that's the reason we actually break it to very, very granular tasks automatically. And that's why our platform, perform deterministically. By nature, AI is probabilistic. But for enterprise applications, the probabilistic nature of AI does not work. So that's why what we do is that, we actually break everything into granular tasks, so that each agent in the workflow can perform a single task, get the information that it that it requires, and perform the task and move, pass it to the next agent. That's why the one IP of our platform is that we have the ability to break down complex tasks or complex workflow into simple task agent. And you'll see that in the demo today. So, what are the, some of the problems that I want to talk about today, specifically for PM, are, on a day-to-day basis, you go and, do the backlog prioritization. You have to do a lot of tasks and schedule management, data analysis and reporting, customer feedback analysis. Your customer continuously giving you feedback in different channels. It may be a Slack channel, it may be your community forum, and all of those things, right? It becomes overwhelming, or in some cases almost impossible, to keep track of all the feedback or all the feature requests that your customers are giving, and then adding it to the backlog and, putting it into the process. As a PM or as a project manager, we all go to multiple meetings all the time. We have to summarize that, make sure that we take the follow-up action, make sure that we schedule those meetings that needs to be performed as a follow-up action, and all those kind of things. So all of these things, and more, you can actually automate using our platform. All right, so with that, I will jump onto the demo and show you some use cases that I have kind of thought about for this webinar. I'll show you how two use cases that I have pre-built using this platform, and then I will show you a third use case that I'll build it from the scratch and show you how we can automate that, right? So let me go to my app home screen, and I'll stop sharing this slide. I'll come back quickly. All right. Do you guys see my screen?
Yes, Chand.
All right. So one very common use case for all the PMs across the board is creating stories or epics for the developers, right? To kind of complete a project. And the journey starts with like, you creating a PRD or a spec, and then once the spec is approved or you kind of brainstorm with your other stakeholders, you are ready to create those stories in Jira. I took Jira as a tool for today's demo, and then you go from there and uh, basically you assign each of those to individuals or development team lead, and then the process starts. Now think about, if given a choice, I'm sure every product manager would like to focus on creating the perfect spec and automate the task of creating the stories in Jira. Because it takes a lot of time to create those stories. And then you have to go on discussing those stories, step by step with developers or the development team. So if you had a way to automate that, we want the PMs and all the Goodgist PMs, they focus on creating the perfect spec uh, rather than worrying about creating those stories in Jira and managing those stories and all of those kind of things, right? So what I have done here is that I created a workflow that will read from a PRD. So for today's demo, I kind of created a hypothetical PRD, which is basically it's for a wedding website. So if you want to manage, if imagine this website manages, users can go register, they can do their wedding planning, they can do their vendor management, all those kind of things. But I took a very small segment of the use cases. It can go way longer. But say, for example, today's demo, I took two key features. One is the user registration and profiles. The other is wedding planning wizard, right? So these are the use cases that I took for today's demo. Then everything will have a functional and non-functional requirements, right? So those were the functional requirements. These are the non-functional requirements that if you are building this website, you would like to code in to your platform. There are some success metrics. How do you know that your platform is or your features are performing as you expect? So these are some of the kind of the success metrics that we have defined. And then you can also do the wireframe and all of those kind of things. So this is a typical PRD or a typical PRD template that we all are familiar with, right? So I'll take this PRD, I'll instruct the agent to go and develop user stories and epics for each of these features. So I have given the feature description in a high level, and then what I want the workflow to do is that go through these features, figure out what are the epics and the stories that needs to be created. I mean, typically what are the stories and group them by epics. I have instructed that every story is kind of make sure that one developer can finish it in a 2-week sprint, so that the stories needs to be broken at that level, and define acceptance criteria and all those kind of things, right? So I'll show you what I instructed, what is the objective of this workflow that I created. So if I go here, edit, so the objective is this workflow will create a, sorry, I think I'm in the wrong one. Sorry. So if you look at the objective, this workflow will create a course that can become, oops, am I still in there? Okay. So objective is this workflow reads a PRD file from OneDrive, identify the key features, generate epics and detailed user stories, create them in Jira, and sends a summary message to a Slack channel. Okay. So if you give this instruction, the actual instruction will be a little bit longer, but imagine you are talking about this to a colleague and just typing it in the create workflow. Now, when I gave this objective to this agent, it basically created all the tasks that are required. These are automatically created. So it created a task to read the PRD. It created a task to generate the epics and story. It created a task to create those epics and stories in Jira, and it created a task to notify me on a channel that, okay, these epics and stories are created in Jira. Now, when you create this, it will ask you for, because the PRD reader, I said read it from OneDrive, so it will automatically ask you to configure OneDrive here. So if so what you can do is you can just click on this, create a connection, and then configure your OneDrive. You basically point it to that file that it needs to take. So let me quickly show you in another one. I think this also has a OneDrive. Okay. So the way to create a connection is I give a name. So it will connect you to your OneDrive account. And then you can go and select the file. So, in my thing, let's say this is the file PRD doc that I want to connect to. You can just point it to that, or you can point it to the folder where the PRD is created. All right, so that's how you configure the connection. The second one, in this use case, it's an epic and story generator. It basically needs to just create the epics and user stories based on the PRD that you have given. The third one is Jira Creator. So you need a connection to your Jira, and the way you create a connection to your Jira is it will automatically identify that, okay, this is the connector that you need to use, and you give a name, API key for Jira, what is your Jira username and Jira URL, and all of those kind of things, right? Similarly, for Slack, it will take you to an OAuth flow to create that connection. So this one is a Slack connector. The way you create it is just give a name, and then it will automatically take you, just like OneDrive, it will automatically take you to the OAuth flow and everything, right? So when you create this workflow, it is also going to identify what are the questions that I need, that the workflow needs to ask to the user. Say, for example, in this case, it identified that, okay, I need to ask the user what is the name of the file from your OneDrive, because it may have multiple PRD documents there. So which one that you want to create in, and then other thing it will ask you is what is the project key for your Jira project, because it needs to connect to one of your projects, not the end. You may have multiple projects, so in which project you want to create your epics and stories. The third is where do you want to, what channel in Slack that you want to send the summary to. So based on the requirement, it will automatically identify what are the questions that it needs to ask when you run this workflow. Say, for example, in this, but if you see that there is a question missing, then you can go and add a new question. Okay, you can just click on this, add a new question, and then it will be added to the form. You can also edit these questions. Say, you want to frame it in some other language, you can just edit this and save it. So once you set up this workflow, then it's time to run, right? So what you do is you just say view workflow and say new run. So, I can run it right now, but what I want to show is, okay, I already ran this based on this PRD. So I'll show you the data that it has created. So it has created all these epics. These are for the functional requirements. It identified that it needed some integrations. These are for the performance and scalability, security and data protect. These are from the technical requirements, non-functional requirements, right? So it created the Epic, user registration and profile management. It created the stories within that Epic. For this, it identified that, okay, user registration via email, user registration via social media, profile management. So it identified all these stories and epics and created in your Jira. Okay. Now let's say you, say for this project, okay, you get the data that it prepared. So the details of these stories are basically in each task. So for each task, it will give you a description and all those kind of things, right? So now let's say that you are not very satisfied with this, okay? For some reason, you want to change it before it gets created in Jira. So you can actually add a human in the loop. You can say, okay, after the stories and epics and stories are generated, let me review and let me make some changes, whatever I want to, and then when I say proceed, go to the next step of creating those stories in Jira. You can add that in the workflow. The other thing you can do is you can just come here and say, I edit. Okay, so this thing, let's say you are not very satisfied with the description, you want to add some more detail or whatever, then you go and add those, right? You have all those options. And then these are the stories, define the acceptance criteria. You will see the details in the Jira, or you can instruct the agent to add all those details here itself. Okay, it automatically identified all of those kind of things. You can also say, hey, identify the dependent stories. Say for example, do I, for say registration via social media or for profile management, dependent story is user registration, right? There is no point of doing a profile management if you don't have the registration. So you can automatically identify those in the workflow. Now, let me go to my Jira. So I think this was Epic 99. So let's look at one of those things that it created. So if you go to Epic 99, it created this Epic and it added the stories inside this Epic. So let's look at one of them. So it actually, did a pretty detailed job that what are the fields that you need, what are the nature of those fields, what are the button that you need, error message, success message, and it also defined the success criteria. Okay, then it defined, okay, what are the key metrics for measuring success for this user story. Okay, so all of those kind of things. You can also ask the agent to create if it is an UI story, you can ask the agent to create a mock-up. For some reason, I think when I ran this today, it created a mock-up in the HTML format, but let me show you this one. So I'll take an example here. Say, for example, you want to create a mock-up for this. Okay, so what you do is you just go here, create a you can go and you can instruct the agent to do it automatically for every user story that involves a UI component. So let it run. Okay. So while it is running, is there any question on this one?
Hey Chandan, hi, this is Zulfikar.
Hey.
Hey, this is fantastic. I think the demo that you showed, right? I'm sorry that I joined late. I couldn't make it on time, but the demo is has been fantastic till now. I mean, the depth of the user story that the app was able to generate, I think that is really great and would definitely save a lot of time.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Zulfikar. One other thing that I wanted to point out. So the knowledge that I gave to this workflow is just from the web, right? But imagine giving your enterprise knowledge, giving your company's knowledge, right? It can the user story. You can actually train the model with previous user stories or your company policies or your product policies and all of those kind of things. Um, you know. It will, okay, again, it created on the HTML, but if you paste this HTML code, in your in some editor, you will see the mockup that it has generated. But I'll see why it is not creating the actual UI. I think we can do that too. But this is the idea. But again, coming back to my point is that when this has just created from the knowledge from the web. Again, you can make it very, very specific to your enterprise. Right? You can train the agent or the workflow based on your company knowledge. And the way to do that is, say, for example, here I can say that on this one, I can say, okay, these are your source. So for example, you can say, okay, I want to enable the web search, but don't go to the entire web. You specify the domain. It may be your conference page. It may be your where you keep your previous PRDs and all those kind of things, right? So you can actually make it very specific to your company, giving it the knowledge specific to your company. All right. All right. So the last step here was to actually send a summary to the Slack channel, right? Oh, I think I need to share my Slack again. Give me just a second. Oh. Why don't I see Slack in this? Actually, let me just share my entire screen. Do you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So it went ahead. I instructed the agent to go and create these messages in a channel called General. Okay. So it went and created these user stories in or basically say that, hey, the Epicsen user stories for this PRD has been created, and these are the stories that were created. Okay, so you can actually, once it is done, you don't have to keep repeating or keep going on to the tool. You can just see, okay, this is completed, right? So this is one demo that one use case that I wanted to showcase for you today. The other use case that I built for you is, say, you keep on, building features, and then once the feature is built, there are a lot of tasks that every PM does, right? One of the main things that they do is training. They need to train the salespeople on the new feature. They need to train the marketing people on the new feature. They need to train the solution architects, the support. Every department, they need to kind of give an overview what the product does or what the feature does. And it's manual. Normally they go and create those courses manually, right? What if you could use an AI agent to kind of create those courses? So what I instructed this agent to do is that, so if you look at the objective of this, sorry, this one. Yeah. So what I said is, okay, I will give you the URL for the documentation for this particular feature. Go and create a course for a specified target user. It may be for solution architect, it may be for sales, it may be for anything. And then for a time base, like it may be a 15 minutes course, it may be a half an hour course, or it may be like, depending on your judgment, you can instruct the workflow to create the course to meet the timeline, right? So, and again, based on what you have entered, it will ask you, okay, what is the product name? What is the URL for the product documentation? What is the target user role for this course? And what is the specific time for course completion? So I instructed it to okay, when I ran it, I instructed it to kind of generate it. So the actually, let me if I see the submitted input. Yeah. So these are the inputs that I gave. I said, the product name is, I just took a company, it's a master data management company. They have a product called Reltio Integration Hub. And I gave the documentation to the URL to the documentation. And I said, what is the target user role for this course? Enterprise sales. It is to train their sales team. And what is the time for course completion? I said 15 minutes. Do it within like 15 minutes. Based on that, it basically created a course. Course objective, what is module 1, module 2, and this is a big product. I mean, it's a whole product of kind of Reltio, one of the biggest product. So because it need to do it in like 15 minutes, it took it at a very high level. Now, let's say you are the one who is creating this course, and now say, you want to elaborate on this. You think that, okay, this itself can be a course for 15 minutes, right? So now you want to say, okay, I want to elaborate more on this. You can ask the agent, module 3, right? So now let's see what the agent does.
Chandan, I had a quick question over here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Over here, you didn't mention anything in the prompt for 15 minutes. So does it automatically understand from the context that the previous course was 15 minutes? So even the new prompt or
Mm-hmm.
that the user has been requesting for the course would also be 15 minutes?
No, it will not. So it
Okay.
will do its own judgment, but that's a good point. You can say, okay, detail out this for a course of 15 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, so it basically, kind of went ahead and, it will generate a detailed course for this module. All right. Okay. Yeah, I think we have 15 more minutes. So I want to show you now how to create a workflow. So the use case that I want to take here today, that one I talked about. So for example, let's say you have a Slack channel where, or this may be your community website, okay? So you say, somebody mentioned that, hey, Gurjesh, you don't support customizing the colors to match my branding. We need a way to match the color of the homepage to match my corporate branding. Okay, let's say in your case, there may be a Slack channel where people are posting bugs or people are posting some features that they want to kind of wanted to have in the product. So as a PM, it's very difficult to keep track of that, right? Because multiple messages are coming from multiple users. So what we can do, that we can go and read this Slack channel. We can ask the agent to read this Slack channel, identify what are the messages for new feature request, okay? And if it is a message for new feature request, go and create a backlog in Jira. So as I told you right now, let's say you want to create that workflow. What it will do, it will write a prompt like this. This workflow will read messages. Channel convey, identify messages that are feature gaps are I'm just let's run this and see what we definitely can go and enhance this and make it more specific, but at this 10,000 feet level, let's see what it does, right? So I said, okay, create this workflow. If it needs some information to create this workflow, it will ask you those questions. So yeah. So it says, would you like to like the workflow to take the Slack channel name as input? Yes, we want this. I don't want it to go to any random one. Would you like the workflow to take the date for which the message should be read as input? I say yes. Would you like the workflow to take the Jira project key as input? I say yes, because I don't want it to determine what is the Jira project key. Okay, so I say submit. All right, so the agent is created. Now you can go and see what are the tasks that it created. So it automatically identified that I need a Slack message reader and I need a configuration for Slack. So it says configuration required. You go here, you say Slack. Connect, it will automatically connect to your Slack. I say allow, and this is done. All right. Update. Now for Jira, it needs the Jira, details. So I go here, I say PM webinar. I'll just give a dummy, key. The connection will probably fail, but that's okay. Right, so your configurations are done. Now let's run it. I mean, when you run it, it will just ask you what is the name of the Slack channel. So I think we configured the Slack channel. So I'll just say PM webinar. And I say today. Okay. Submit. Let's see. At least it should read the Slack channels properly. By the way, you can run you don't have to run it manually. And you can actually either run it on a scheduled basis or event-driven. So these are the two messages, right? It should identify that this is a feature request. Okay. Let's see. You can go. You can see what each step is performing. Yeah. So it identified that this is a feature gap or a feature request. It didn't identify the other message as a feature request. It identified this as a feature request. So, that's what we wanted to show, that it automatically identifies based on the instruction, based on the objective that you have given. Okay, and then it will go and create the Jira stories for you, in your backlog with a proper Jira connection and everything. So I think this will fail because it didn't. It was not able to connect. I gave a dummy API key, so it was not able to connect to that. So with that, that was what I wanted to cover in this presentation. Now let's see if we have any questions.
Thank you so much, Chandan, for such a great session. I hope it was some value add for our attendees today. Everyone, this is your space to ask questions. If you have anything, please feel free to ask.
Hi, Chandan, Zulfikar again.
Hey.
You did mention about all these API keys and configuring all these apps together. Can you talk a little bit about security, how it is secure? Is it per user based, or can an admin basically come and configure certain apps within GoodGist so that end users can go ahead and configure their own workflows without the need of knowing API keys?
Absolutely. So how it works, that's a great question. So only admins has the permission to create workflows. So only those people who are identified as admins, or basically the creators, they have the permission to create workflows. And an end user, don't have the if your job is to run the workflow, you don't have the permission to create the workflow. So all the connections are configured by admin as per their enterprise needs.
Okay. Thanks. I think I definitely love the demo, Chandan. The entire idea for me is that if PMs are working in enterprise B2B, domain. There are various apps that they interact with, right? For example, right from
Correct.
Salesforce to Zendesk, where they get the customer feedback, and then Zoom, the video recordings, and so on.
Absolutely.
Clary is another app, right? I mean, I see this as a big use case for product management itself, where we can connect all these apps and maybe create a workflow where it can monitor all the sales calls, all the Clary calls, and automatically keep on updating the roadmap. So it can be a kind of a
Absolutely.
live workflow. So
Yeah.
very interesting use case and very interesting platform.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you, Zulfikar.
Yeah,
All
thanks a
right.
lot. Yeah, that was pretty much it from my side.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you
Thanks.
so much. Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for the webinar. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for
All
joining.
right.
In case you have any questions,